When it comes to raw skill in Deadlock, nobody sits above Michael S. With more than 2,300 games and 60% win rate, he is considered by many to be the best Deadlock player. So naturally, when the world's best Deadlock player started playing 7, we got our notepad out. In this video, we examine a game where Michael S turned 7 into an absolute raid boss. We'll study his mechanics, we'll examine his item choices, and we'll watch as the Raidboss 7 carries his entire team to victory. My name is Drungo, this is your Deadlock, let's get to it. Alright, so we're starting off in the laning phase. If there's a specific part of the game you want to jump ahead to, feel free to, the chapters are down below. It is going to be slow, mainly because we need to capture everything, so let's get to it. Our main focus here, it is going to be on his positioning and his ammo usage. Where is he shooting and where is he sitting? So at the moment, we can see that he is sitting in a very safe position in the subway. He's keeping the majority of his body safe behind this subway door or this subway window, and only peeking to take his shots. He's not standing in the middle of the lane. He's making sure that he has got cover, and he's utilizing his camera. So you've got third-person ability to look around the corner and finds his target and then peeks with his cursor on top of the target. He's about to run out of ammo. He's about to get into a bit of a fight here with the enemy Infernus, but we're not going to focus on this too much. The truth is, these are all subjective engagements that will vary depending on the lane that you're playing, but we can analyze his decision-making as well as his positioning. Despite having 3/4 of his health, and despite the enemy Infernus being very, very low in the lane, he still falls back to safety. And that's because his strength is not level 1, not level 2, not level 3. It is 30 minutes through the game. It's 25 minutes through the game. It's once he's got those items. Now, granted, the 7's actually quite strong at level 1 with his stun, in a duo lane especially, if he's got a laning partner that he can rely on, but Lash's health isn't going to be cooperative, so he focuses on denying. He's not looking to push down the enemy troopers so that when they actually get to his tower, they're not going to be as much of a threat, and once again, he's going to be able to bite his tongue, the Lash coming up very, very close, and still, he doesn't look for a commit, just because he knows this isn't his strength. His strength is going to be that mid-game when he's got a nice soul lead. That's what he's going to be looking to capitalize on. So focusing continually on these last hits. He's doing well so far. 604 souls, which is about standard when it comes to the second wave. This is pretty much, you know, you've gotten all of the last hits, but he's still got a couple left under the tower. The primary focus here has obviously just been last hit orientated, and we can see through his positioning in the early game, it is almost 100% on last hits. First item, it's going to be extra regen. It's not headshot booster. It's not close quarter combat. He doesn't want to get involved with the enemy. He just wants to stay alive. He just wants to collect his last hits, and that is how he's playing this laning phase to start us off with. It doesn't mean it's going to stay like this forever. It just means these first couple of waves, that's what the big focus is going to be on. Now that he's got extra regen, perhaps he looks to play it a little bit more aggressively, and we can see that the Lash is going to be able to take out the enemy Infernus, and also Shiv's going to be looking to dive as well, but of course a 2v1 is going to be favorable to those players that outnumber the enemy, and now he picks up an early kill. So you might be picking up an early kill in your lane. What do you do from here? Let's take a look and see what he does in this position. We'll talk about his item choice in a little bit, but let's look what he does. Does he go back to base to heal? No. Does he look to buy healing right? No, he doesn't. What does he do? He instead looks to push his wave. He wants to build these, or he wants to push these troopers up towards the enemy T1 Guardian. Because when that happens, those troopers, hopefully, they're going to die to the Guardian, and it means that the enemy is not going to get any souls from that. The longer that they stay in the lane, the more likely it is that the enemy comes, the enemy collects those souls. So the sooner we get them up to the T1 Guardian, the sooner they die, and hopefully they don't get any, the enemy doesn't get any souls. We also see him take the enemy's T1 jungle camp here. He's got his own T1 jungle camp back home, or on his own side of the map. But because he's obviously taken out the opponent, he's got this opportunity to come up and deny this. Spots out the Lash here. And once again, you can see that this is a very non-committal position. He's looking to try and avoid committing to a fight. Just seems to be skirting around the edge and does an awful lot of damage here for a guy with not a whole lot of items. Another thing to note is that recently the change with the statues as well as the boxes brought down from 3 minutes to 2 minutes at the point that they spawn. So that's going to be a big component of what he's looking to do as well. And this is just another great way that he he is able to maximize his souls when it comes to those timings that we're going to be looking for, and he's already sitting on a pretty decent margin. He picked up a couple of early kills, so it's always easy to look at this game and say, you know, he's got early kills, so of course he's going to win the game, he's going to demolish the enemy, but it's not like this forever, I promise you. So, once again, he's still got that extra regen. He's also picked up Monster Hunter rounds. Monster Hunter rounds? Monster rounds. Sorry, Monster Hunter rounds. Monster rounds. That's going to offer him another little bit of extra regen. Lash is going to look to dive in. Falls back immediately, probably realizes that, you know, doesn't have his 7 with him and probably can't commit to it, but we did see the Shiv was on quite a little bit of, quite a low HP pool, and obviously the Infernus, we have to respect him just because of that dot. Does a lot of damage, and we need to be really careful of it because if we're not paying attention, we can burn quite a bit. So he's up to 1,300 souls now. He could look to purchase a 1250 piece, could be soul shredder bullets, but it's not going to be. Instead, he's going to be looking to pick up 2 spirit items. He's going to start off with extra charge and extra spirit. So the idea behind this is with extra charge, you've obviously got the ball. This has always been a great item, but extra spirit got a nice little buff in the most recent patch, so very slight buff. This is an interesting item, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in the mid game, but with extra spirit, essentially, if you go extra spirit, you're committing to go boundless spirit. If you don't go extra spirit, you've got that slot open, so you can be a little bit more flexible with your utility items, things like suppressor, mystic slow, you know, mystic vulnerability a little bit later on as well. So let's focus once again on his positioning, and we can see that despite, you know, being 3 minutes into this game, he's still looking to try and play defensive as possible. He wants to avoid these fights at all costs. Lash gonna go in, gonna be able to pick up that kill there, and we can see Lash was on quite a low amount of HP. Shiv's also gonna trade out with him here. Wouldn't be surprised if that Lash actually goes down. Again, at this stage of the game, his focus, it's still just staying alive. That's all he's doing. He's got a fair amount of resources here where he could think about purchasing healing, right? But that's not going to be the case. He doesn't need it because 7's recent buff, where he's now got 3 native health regen, or 3 innate health regen, compared to 1.5, which is what it was before. He's now got 3, plus the 3 from extra regen, plus the 1 from monster rounds, pushes him up to 7. He's also got another one with extra spirit. And I'll show you guys these items. I should probably hover over them every time I'm talking about them. Oh, did we? No, we didn't change. So we've got extra spirit, which gives health regen. We've got extra regen, which obviously gives extra regen. And we've got monster rounds, which also gives extra regen. So he's got essentially a whole bunch for a total of 8 extra regen. Now, he's on the moves here. We'll talk about these other item choices later. And what I want to pay attention to here is not so much the fact that he's going for a gank, but rather the placement of his ball. You might be tempted coming in on this gank to just throw the ball out straight away and get that damage out there immediately, but you've only really got one opportunity to use it. So the way that he utilizes it is here. On the exit, the enemy's got one exit route, so he throws the ball on the exit route to make sure that that ball is going to be getting as much damage as it can, as the opponent has to make a decision: do I run to my exit or do I run away from my exit and avoid the ball? And that's not a pretty decision to have to make. So a really smart move there. We're not going to go back and watch this again because, once again, when it comes to your own games, these are going to be subjective things. You're going to have to be checking the minimap. Your enemy's got the lane is going to have to be in position. Your lane's going to have to be favorable. There's no jungle camps up. There's a whole lot of conditions that you've got to check that off. And these right here, these circumstances were ripe for the gank. But he's going to make his way back to the lane now. He's got that 8 health regen a second, and his enemies are behind his T1 Guardian. A little bit confusingly, I'm sure he came back to the lane thinking, what the hell is going on here? But instead of looking to escape from them and run away, he actually dives under his tower, which is the correct play. Had he run away from them, there's a good chance they would have just chased him down and killed him. But in this situation, he's going to just play hide and seek around this little back spot, throws down the lightning ball, tries his best to stay alive, but unfortunately the dive is going to be really strong. Great read there on the Infernus, but in the end, he is going to go down. So let's move it back to 1x speed while we watch him come back into lane and just talk a little bit about Mystic Reach. This item is incredible on 7. It has been for the most recent patch, as well as the have we got a? I think we've got a utilization of the extra speed here just to get back to lane and to deal with the troopers. You can see there's a lot of troopers there. He's just going to throw the ball and then helps out the ally. but this way he doesn't miss these troopers, and hopefully he's able to keep the Guardian alive for a little bit longer. But Mystic Reach has been quite a good item on 7 ever since the +1 meter ball change. It's great because it just kind of helps you hit specific jungle camps. And speaking of specific jungle camps, it looks like we've got our first mistake of the game coming out right now from Michael S. What's the mistake? You might be wondering. I feel like I'm watching a Deathy video right then. I just kind of reminded me, or reminded myself of Deathy. The mistake is that when it comes to placing your ball, you can actually hit all three of those jungle minions, and at the very least you can hit 2 of them. And for the most part of that ball, he was hitting 1 and eventually none. So it's about making sure that your ball is placed in a way that it's going to maximize the damage on those neutral jungle camps. Now, it's important to note this is one of his first games playing as 7 that we are watching right now. And when it comes to playing 7, there are unique mechanics to this hero that are not existent in other heroes. So naturally, it's going to take time for him to pick up all those mechanics. Things that, you know, if you've played 7 10 times before, you'll be pretty familiar with. Or things that you might have tested out. As an example, you know, do lightning balls stack? You might know the answer to that one already. I can tell you right now that Michael S. didn't actually know the answer to that question. But he does find out in this game. So Mystic Vulnerability is his next pick it up. This is a really, really nice item to be picking up, just simply because there's this awkward little timing as his tower does go down. There's this awkward little timing now at the 5-minute mark until you've got your level 3 ball. Basically, your level 3 ball is what allows you to clear tier 2 jungle camps. And before that, it's very difficult for you to clear those tier 2 jungle camps. So by getting Mystic Vulnerability earlier on, it allows you to clear those jungle camps a little bit faster until you get that level 3. We can see at the moment he's level 2, and he's still got quite a way to go before he hits level 3. Looks like here his opponent diving upon him. This is always a very tough spot. It's a 2v1, so it's never going to be easy. But the Infernus is quite a bit stronger than 7 at this stage of the game. I think even with the very slight soul lead, it's only about 500. It's pretty negligible at this point. You can hear the ultimate going off, but because it's in slow-mo, it's a little bit delayed, but he will go down. And we'll check back in once he's making his way back in the lane. So if we take a look at what he's doing, he's just doing a little bit of a box route here. So he's also going to be connecting this in with a jungle camp. So once again, it's a little detail, but it's like the misplaced ball. One of the things that he could be improving on is just making sure that ball connects. And as I said, this is actually one of the first games he plays as 7. Now that 7 has become a little bit more meta at the top level of the scene, we're going to be seeing him picking up 7 quite a bit. I think he's already played about 4 or 5 games with 7 just in the past day, so it gets quite exciting. For me, that's very exciting. Obviously, you guys know I absolutely love and enjoy playing 7 so much. So misplaced balls are something that will get fixed up very, very quickly. When it comes to itemization choices at this stage, he's going to avoid spending here. The next choice that he's going to be looking for is Rapid Recharge. This is another item that has gotten really quite a lot of strength. And look at that absolutely perfect movement. Can we just go back and watch that movement just to admire the dexterity required for that? And so he jumps up off the zip line, dashes into this wall, does the wall jump, and then throws the ball out on top. Now, whether the ball throw was the right call or not, you know, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but have a look at the decision making. So he throws the ball and he says, I'm going to come back to you later. Heads down into the basement, pulls one of my favorite, which is just your ultimate, all of the creeps down here. And it feels incredibly good to do this because you're getting such good value out of your Storm Cloud. I know that some people like to hold it, but the truth is with 7, the way that I think it's best played is you want to avoid getting into a position where you'd have to use it in the first place. It doesn't mean that you don't use it. It just means that you want to try your best not to use it. And subsequently, it means that you can spend it on taking out jungle camps. So we're at the 8-minute mark. The slot machines have spawned, or at least we're about to be at the 8-minute mark. If I remember correctly, it doesn't always work perfectly. The timer at the top of our screen, so you can see it says technically we're at 8:20, and the minimap also says that the slot machines have spawned. So I'm curious to see whether he actually looks to take them out immediately. It does look like he is going to be making his way up there. So with this, It's important to note that this has actually sped up the numbers on 7's farm quite a bit, just because the slot machines are available sooner, and because we love to take the slot machines as 7, I'm getting my slot machines an extra 2 minutes faster, and because I'm getting my slot machines 2 minutes faster, I'm getting that extra, you know, it's like 800 souls that we're getting out of doing the slot machines. And because of that, it means that we're getting 800 souls sooner, 2 minutes sooner than what we normally would. It means I'm getting my rapid recharge 2 minutes faster than I normally would. And because my rapid recharge is now faster, it means I'm clearing camps faster than what I was before, because I can now free farm with those balls. So let's go ahead and move this up to 1.1x speed, because it's clear that we're now in the jungle phase of this game. So we're in the 1x, so we'll move it up to 1x speed. And so now the question becomes about itemization. One of the things that I'm happy to disclose here is I actually jumped on Michael S's stream. While he was playing these games, I was watching them live, and I was asking him questions after the game and during the game about his itemization choices and the methodology behind his thinking. I wanted to really dive in and get an understanding. When it came to rapid recharge, I didn't need any explanation on that. But the next item that he goes for is probably going to make you scratch your head a little bit. I'm not going to spoil it for you. But let's just say, it gets a bit expensive in here. So, he's got beautiful big balls now, we can see here. One interesting thing to note that I will just point out, he actually went for full ball max before going into any other levels on his skills. So he's only just now leveling up his 3. And now has the ability to go into his 2 as well. One of the things that I was testing with was playing a little bit more aggressive in the lane and investing just 1 point in my stun, because it reduces the cooldown quite a bit if we take a look at the stun. So you can see it goes from 41 seconds and brings it down to, well, it goes down to my 19 seconds, so it's down to a 22-second thing. So it's quite nice. But I just want to rewind it here just to talk a little bit about mechanics, because this is important. And this was actually something that he asked during the stream, and I answered his question, because obviously when it comes to 7, our knowledge is pretty decent. So he came in and he looked to take the Ancients or the tier 3 straight away, and you'll notice that he's actually stacking up his balls. And he said, do the balls stack? And he said, I think the balls stack, and the balls don't actually stack the damage. So if you've got multiple balls on the same target, they're not going to take multiple sets of damage from the balls. That you will only be affected by one ball at a time. So it's important that you don't waste balls in situations like that. So here's the next item. What is it? It's Improved Spirit. Now, Improved Spirit actually received a massive buff in this patch. It went from plus 23 spirit power to plus 28 spirit power. That's an extra 5 spirit power. And you've got to remember, when it comes to 7, spirit power is incredibly important. You see, he's going for quite an aggressive jungle route here in the middle of the map. I shouldn't say jungle route, because it's definitely not the case. Nice little movement here, but unfortunately when it comes to just like having to deal with Infernus at this point in the game, there's no real way escaping him as 7, unless you've got some crazy movement, like maybe you picked up kinetic dash or something, then maybe there's a chance. So when he's gone into Improved Spirit. So just to talk a little bit about Improved Spirit, typically we were avoiding this item earlier because this item, while it offers you stats, there are better items that offer you the same or similar stats, but also give you more utility. Items like Mystic Vulnerability together with Escalating Exposure. Items like Mystic Slow. Incredibly good utility, so they add something to you as well as getting that spirit. But one of the interesting things that Michael S. said is that his plan is to rush Boundless Spirit. And I queried him about that. I said, are you sure, is that the best choice? Wouldn't you think something like Spiritual Overflow, which just got a huge buff in the most recent patch, not to mention he's unfortunately about to get ganked again here and will go down in very quick succession. And can we just note, at this point, he's 1 in 4, yet has 12,000 souls. So he's still doing very well when it comes to your benchmark, right? Like, your basic benchmark is like 1k per minute. And in the early game, that's nowhere near 1k a minute. It's kind of like 800 per minute. So to be 12k at 12k, or to be 12k at 12 minutes with 4 deaths, very impressive. So that's it. So he said he doesn't think rushing Spiritual Overflow makes sense on 7. And I asked him why. He said, because it doesn't grant you the fire rate anymore, so it grants you conditional fire rate. If we take a look at Spiritual Overflow here, I'm going to pause the game just quickly so that we can just review the item for a short time. So Spiritual Overflow doesn't provide fire rate as a flat bonus. It now provides conditional fire rate, and you have to shoot enemy heroes. His justification was, at this stage of the game, I don't want to shoot heroes. I want to shoot creeps. I want to shoot minions. I want to shoot troopers. I want to shoot jungle camps. So I'm not going to be getting that 35% fire rate. I'm not going to be getting that 50 spirit power. And I said, that's actually so smart. I didn't even think about that. I just looked at the buffs to Spiritual Overflow, and I said, that's incredible. However, he says, for farming, the best item is Boundless Spirit, because it gives you the extra damage, it gives you the extra movement speed, and it also gives you the extra spirit bonus, which is going to further increase your movement speed, because you have movement speed that scales with 7, with spirit. I'm just going to have to rewind it to get rid of this little bug here. So let's focus on what his positioning is and what his choices are, considering that he just died and he's got a little bit of a soul lead. He heads back into the lane, looks to collect some troopers, and now he's got a big buy ahead of him, because when it comes to items, he's obviously picked up a couple of other little things, like he's picked up Enduring Spirit, he's picked up his sprint boots as well. And another thing to note is, like, well, I mean, we've already talked about the balls. You can actually hit all 3 of these guys with the balls if you just put them in the middle like that, yeah. So this is one of those things where it's like, you know, he'll get it. We want to try and identify the, you know, what is the core components of what he's doing, and how is he using that to build this lead to get to the stage where he becomes a raid boss. He's going to find out the hard way about those minions as well, those jungle camps. Did you hear the little sound at the end of it? So he's going to have to go back and check on them, and all 3 of them are still asleep. It's always tough. You got to give them all a little love tap before you go. So at this stage of the game, you know, he's still doing decently well on the farm, but he hasn't really come online in terms of like hyper farming just yet. Things seem pretty decent for him, but the next couple of minutes are going to be pretty boring. If you take a look down here at the bottom of your screen, you can see that he doesn't kill anybody, and he doesn't get killed for quite a while. So we're going to speed it up until we get to Boundless Spirit, and then we'll jump back in. All right, well, we are back. He's about to hit 6,200 souls, and you'll see that he's already utilizing some of our techniques. He's got the ball tossed down perfectly, and he's landing those big balls in the middle of the jungle camps. So for anybody who's unfamiliar with the ball toss, it's simply where you just throw a ball into a lane and you just walk away. You know how they say cool guys don't look at explosions? Well, you're a cool guy and your ball creates an explosion on those enemy troopers. So the idea is you throw the ball out, kill all the troopers, and enjoy the profits later. Boundless Spirit now comes online at 16 minutes into the game. This offers Seven a huge amount of stats, not just a massive boost to his spirit, but a massive boost to his sprint speed, a massive boost to his base movement speed. His damage scaling with his 3 is now going to go absolutely crazy as well. There are so many different things that offer a bonus with this. Now, Boundless Spirit has always been a good item. It's just been a very expensive item. The buffs to Improved Spirit as well as to Extra Spirit, the Tier 1 and Tier 2 versions of the item, mean that it becomes a little bit more viable, because before you couldn't really justify spending a whole slot on Extra Spirit, and then, you know, Improved Spirit was kind of like, you know, I'd rather the other things. Now it becomes a lot more viable, and the fact that you're able to rush it like this, pick it up early, and then utilize it for the length of the game makes it very attractive. And naturally, I can see why someone like Michael S would want to pick it up, just because of the stats that it gives. He becomes an absolute, an absolute speed demon at this stage of the game. He's also picked up a couple of other items, so Spirit Lifesteal, as well as Soul Shredder bullets as well. So he's looking to try and start stacking up some of that lifesteal. He's in a decent spot at the moment. He's going to locate the enemy Infernus. Manages to get the stun onto him. Now, keep in mind, that's not what you want to see. Naturally, at this point, he was a little bit scared. Ultimate's going to come off together with the ball, and you can see with how big that ball is, the amount of damage that just gets pushed out onto the enemy. And you can see that he's really starting to take that raid boss role now. He's got quite a soul lead. He's up 4k on the enemy Shiv, and he's able to take the Shiv down as well. So little bit of a tough position, but manages to find his way out of it. So I want to talk about the combination of items that he's using here. So we've got Enduring Spirit. We've also got, let's see if we can hover over it. We've got Enduring Spirit. We've also got Spirit Lifesteal, and we've got Soul Shredder bullets. So as a total, this offers you 23 Spirit Lifesteal, 33% Spirit Lifesteal, 53% spirit life steal. Now, it doesn't translate over to that because there's diminishing returns on each of those items, but it allows him to really heal up quite a bit when he attacks an enemy hero and then combos things like his lightning ball together with his ultimate. You get absolutely crazy returns on it. And that was, a perfect utilization of it there. We now see the next item that he's gone for, and it's improved reach. This is another item that has been quite popular since 7 received +1 meter on the final level of his ball. But now with it being +2 meters on the ball, it almost becomes a little bit of a non-negotiable here. I think that there's two perspectives. The first one is that, the ball is already so big, it's going to be so difficult to not have people in the ball already. And then there's another part where it's like, well, it's already so big, we might as well just make it a bit bigger. So he's definitely going to lean into that, and you can see even at 19 minutes, he's able to 1v1 a Shiv, who's doing pretty well, right? 21k souls at 19 minutes is okay. If we take a look at his score, he's 8-6, so before this he was 8-5. Like, this Shiv was in a decent position, and yet he's still able to do that. Now, largely, this is because he's not invested in an item that you will be familiar with as Magic Carpet. Now, I just want to take this little quick opportunity just to talk about Magic Carpet, because Magic Carpet, while it didn't receive a nerf in the most recent patch, there were a lot of things that affected Magic Carpet negatively. The biggest one is Ethereal Shift. So you can no longer stack Ethereal Shift and Magic Carpet. Well, you can. It's just you can't cancel Ethereal Shift early anymore to fly away. You have to wait the full 3 seconds, which means you lose the full 3 seconds of flight. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the teleporters are now in the corners of the walkers, which means that if you're split pushing this walker and your plan is to Magic Carpet away, your enemy can very quickly appear in this teleporter and gets that extra movement speed to chase you down. So these nerfs have, in my mind, reduced the significance of Magic Carpet. Now, I don't think someone like Michael S. would have gone for Magic Carpet in the first place, because he's quite a talented player who doesn't need a crutch like Magic Carpet to fix his positioning. However, I think for somebody like me, who is still working on that fundamental, I don't think I'm going to be relying on it as much to fix that, and instead look to just try and focus on other items as well. But because of this, and I think this is a big component of what Deathy said in his video as well, buying items that make you a stronger character are going to allow you to come online sooner. So by going Magic Carpet, we just kind of delay when we come online, which is true. But at the same time, we delay coming online if we die. So that's another way that we can look at it, and we can say that Magic Carpet prevents us from death. But if we, as an example, if we take a look at Boundless Spirit, you could argue that by having Boundless Spirit, you're going to be killing things faster. You could argue that your movement speed is faster, and therefore you could potentially survive from ganks that way as well, while also just becoming online with your core items. So I think that's a really smart argument, and that's part of the reason why I'm not going to be going for Magic Carpet anymore. One of the items I have been testing with is Majestic Leap. So basically, you cast your stun on yourself, and then you Majestic Leap in towards the enemies. It's a little bit weird, but I'm enjoying it. So next item here, most likely, if I remember correctly, it's going to be Spiritual Overflow. Spiritual Overflow is just such an incredible item for 7. Probably one of the best items to get on him. Like, it is... As we've seen, like, rushing Boundless Spirit makes a lot of sense, but at this point in the game, considering the soul lead that he's got, so he's 29k at 21 minutes, he wants to start team fighting at this point. So obviously he's still farming the jungle, and we're watching him farm like crazy, but he wants to come online with team fighting, and to do that, Spiritual Overflow is really going to help him quite a bit. So at this stage of the game, he is still quite happy farming up a storm here. He's going to head back to base here. Should be able to get in that buy as well. Other key items that he's going to be looking for, of course, Leech is something. So there is the Spiritual Overflow pickup. So at this phase of the game, though, he is an absolute farm god. We've got 2 enemies here. Cops a lot of damage. You can see just how quickly that health bar is going to be drained. The Haze trying to dive in. She's going to go down, but unfortunately that tick is going to get him, and it's going to be the inevitable death that costs him quite a bit of time. So 40 seconds he's now sitting on the sideline for. Now, would have Magic Carpet saved you there? Well, yeah, Magic Carpet. If we take a look, let's watch Lash as we talk about it. Magic Carpet would have saved him there. Why would have Magic Carpet saved him there? Because it gives you shields. It gives you bullet shields. It gives you spirit shields. So even if the plan isn't to fly away, the plan might be to get shields. And that could be the difference. But then arguably, you know, had you not had Boundless Spirit, you wouldn't have had that plus 300 health. So you would have died quite a bit earlier. So you can see arguments on both sides. By the way, plus 15 health regen, that basically guarantees you're never going to need any form of... well, I mean, your health is always going to be very high with that. Let's ride on board with him, though, as he makes his way out. Next item that he's going to be going for, take a look at this one. A bit of an interesting one, Divine Barrier. Now, you might be thinking, why the heck is he getting this? And the reason why is simply because of its stats. It has plus 8% ability range, which means it's actually extending, it's making his ball even bigger. So there are a couple of items that extend your ability range. Another one of them is Mystic Reverb. So we can see here it increases your ability range by 15%. So this is going to make your ball even bigger if you were to do it. The reality is when it comes to Mystic Reverb is there's nothing really worth putting it on with 7. And when you imbue an ability with Mystic Reverb, it makes it's dependent on the amount of damage that it's giving. And because of the way the damage ticks work with 7, there's nothing really, in my mind, that makes sense. But perhaps there's more talented 7 players out there like Wicked. I know that I wouldn't say he's a fan of it, but I know that he thinks about it, or he goes it in a couple of different games just to get that extra ball size. But then we can see Majestic Leap coming in on the pocket. The Shiv going to be in a little bit of trouble here as he gets completely dove. And it's not even close, but we can see the Spiritual Overflow going to be around the body. And this is where the Raidboss starts to come online as he pushes underneath the Walker and now starts to begin pushing objectives. 24 minutes into this game. Take a look at the soul lead that he's already built up. Over his team, he's got a 10,000 soul lead on the next person, and that's a Vindicta. So keep in mind, Vindicta has got bonuses to collect more souls. Her ultimate in particular allows her to harvest more souls. When it comes to his position versus the enemy teams, we can see that the Shiv is going to be the highest net worth at 29k. So he's got quite a bit of a lead on the enemy team as well. And he's looking for that extra little bit of souls. He wants to pick up his next item. So I think next item after this probably going to be Leech, I want to say. Not 100% sure here. Could also be, I think, I've been very tempted to go for a Soul Rebirth at a point like this, just because Soul Rebirth actually offers you a lot of good stats as 7. I don't think he goes for Soul Rebirth here, but this is essentially where the raid boss is coming online. Just to talk about Soul Rebirth and why it's so good. So gives you extra 15% cooldown reduction, so that's going to help out with your 3 and keeping your 3 on cooldown for longer, and also just gives you 12 base spirit power, which is very, very nice to have. We always welcome more spirit power on 7. You get everything scales with spirit power, your damage on your 3, your movement speed. It is just a pleasure to have more movement speed as 7. And it is going to be, what does he pick up here? Oh, Mystic Slow. Hold on, he's gone for Suppressor and at the same time, Escalating. Escalating Exposure, of course. How could I forget Escalating Exposure? So one of the cool interactions with Escalating Exposure is because your ball has so many ticks in it. So the way that it works is it doesn't just do a flat amount of damage every second. It's constantly tick, 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 ticking away. And it means that it is essentially always pushing Escalating Exposure at every opportunity that it gets. And we can see the Shiv's going to go down once again. This Shiv is definitely diving quite a bit, but have a look at the size of the ball. Once again, spotting out that Infernus, able to get the stun on him, and you can see the radius of how damn big that stun is getting. Keep in mind that the byproduct of making your balls big is that your stun is quite big as well. So, Escalating Exposure, with each tick, it doesn't increase Escalating Exposure. Escalating Exposure's got a minimum tick increase of 0.7. So the way that Escalating Exposure works, even though it got a nerf in the most recent patch, if we press J and hover over it, there we go. So your max frequency is 0.7 seconds. So that means if you're dealing magic, or if you're dealing spirit damage to a person every 0.7 seconds, you're going to be building up a stack. But if that's every second, you'll only build up a stack every second. So that's the great thing about Escalating Exposure with 7. And once again, a huge disarm coming through on 7. He misses out on pretty much the entirety of that fight just because he's disarmed the entire time. You can see the power of disarm against a hero like 7, reliant on the auto attack. On the auto attack, on the left click. Would you call it an auto attack? I guess you could technically call it an auto attack. So at this stage of the game, 43k souls, 27 minutes in, he's definitely on target to hit 50k souls. So you can aim. So I always aim for 60k souls at 30 minutes, but it's rare I actually hit that. I would say a lot more accurate would be 50k at 30 minutes, and then like above that, you're obviously having a very good game, and below that, it's not going to work out. So he's going to go into Unstoppable. I've just remembered exactly why this is. So instead of going into Leech so early, his methodology was this. With the recent nerfs to Leech, it didn't make sense to him to go into it so early. Prior to this patch, then definitely it would have, but afterwards, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because of the way that the diminishing returns now stack with the other items as well, and of course the bullet lifesteal. But he's in a little bit of trouble, pops the Unstoppable, looks to try and secure it, but unfortunately it gets stolen. He's going to pop the ultimate, doesn't have that Unstoppable anymore, but still manages to do quite a bit of damage and take out a fair bit of the enemy team. 3 of them taken out so far. The Raidboss slowly coming online as he makes his escape outside of the pit. Still spots out enemy Haze. Does a little bit of damage, just keeps those balls pumping. One of the things to note is that you can just be throwing out these balls constantly and they do stay up. It doesn't cancel as the previous ball. Just because you throw out the second ball doesn't mean the first one is going to be cancelled. So unfortunately, he does die there. The enemy's got quite a lot of, what's the best way to say it? Anti-heal. So if we take a look at Infernus, Infernus picks up toxic bullets, which gives him healing reduction. And I suspect we've probably got Healbane in here somewhere as well. So we've got it on Shiv, probably got it. Where else have we got it? Is it just on Shiv? It might just be on Shiv for the moment. Yeah, it's just on Shiv. But you can combo these together and it can significantly hamper the amount of healing that you're doing. So if we take a look at his items, he's now converted that suppressor up to a Mystic Slow. And every single component of his build, I would say it's built for team fighting. It's built for being a raid boss. The only single thing that I would potentially look at to replace is improved reach. Just because while I like improved reach and I like what it does, it's one of those things where it's like, as I said earlier, your balls are already so damn big. Now, let's just quickly analyze what he did there, because it's a really smart move. So he goes for a ball toss out the front with a huge wave, and you might be tempted to just go and clear this with your 3, but instead you just pop the ball, and he can do that because of the improved reach. He is guaranteed to hit every single trooper in that wave, 100%. There's no two ways about it. He's going to hit absolutely everything. But we see that the Haze manages to pop the Unbreakable, or rather pop the Unstoppable, but in the end still goes down. Beautiful positioning from him as well. Great utilization of that little hallway. And then in the end is able to clean up the troopers. He's always going to be looking where he can go to get more farm. Even though at this stage he is 100% online, a huge component of 7 is still making sure that you're clearing out the waves. And I was reading a post on Reddit that was basically talking about 7s, and there was one guy in the comments, and I upvoted that guy. He basically said, look, it's not my fault that my whole team is just focused. Oh, he's in trouble. He's in trouble. That, my friend, that is Wraith gameplay at its finest. Was there any counterplay that he could go for there? I don't think so. She's got Curse, so there's really nothing you can do. Yeah, because I mean, she prevents your item usage, and because she's preventing your item usage, you can't use your Unstoppable, and because you can't use Unstoppable, it means her ult hits, and because her ult hits, it means that she can land all her cards on you. So there's literally nothing you can do, combined with like the fact that she's got Shadow Weave. It's just such a great item for her. That is just Wraith gameplay to a T. But yeah, the guy in the comments on the thread basically said words to the effect of, my team is always fighting down mid for no apparent reason while we're getting 3 lanes of creeps pushed into our base. It's like, it's not my fault. Sure, I want to farm, but at the same time, can we clear out the troopers, please? So, and that really resonated with me. I mean, to be honest, there's nothing quite like being a 7 respawning and just seeing like 2 waves of troopers at your base and just being like, thank you for the gold. Well, thank you for the souls. All right, we'll ride back on board with him as he flies into battle. Rank 1 player. Big ball. You can see just how big that damn ball is. It's so big you can't even see it. It's just huge, and they try and hide in the same spot, and of course, he's just going to finish them both off. The balls do not discriminate. when it comes to them, when it comes to their size, that is for certain. Have a look at that. So, I think it's times like that where you can really appreciate having the improved reach, because just by having that extra little bit of reach, it means that you're getting more value on your slow, as well as just getting more damage. And you've got to remember that, you know, if there is a small bit of time that you're getting escalating exposure on an opponent versus when you're not, it could result in a huge difference in damage in the long term. But overall, he's just, at this stage of the game, he is so farmed. And keep in mind, we're only 32 minutes in, and he's at 59k. So he's only 2 minutes behind that 60k benchmark at 30 minutes. He is absolutely farming out the wazoo. And I guess another thing to note is that, as I said earlier, like these are only his first games as 7. Once he starts to learn all the intricacies of 7 about, like, you know, dare I say, jungle routes, and, you know, the different techniques that you use to maximize your farming, he's going to be an absolute menace. And then, you know, he's been ganked a couple of times in this game, pushed up a little bit aggressively. And I think that's another thing to note. He's largely been on his own side of the map. Rarely have we actually seen him extend onto his side of the map. Let's speed it up a little bit and take a look at when he becomes a raid boss, though. All right, so a team fight's about to unfold. We're going to slow it down to 0.5 speed. He's also picked up toxic bullets to help out with the anti-heal. Spots an enemy in the secret shop, throws the ball down, and have a look at this. Doesn't go into the secret shop yet. Just plays it on the back. Spots out another enemy. Continues to throw the balls. And he is just an absolute raid boss at this stage of the game. More than 3,000 health on him. Easy to clear out these players. Pops the ultimate. Immediately gets comboed by the Moe and Krill. And unfortunately, gets it cancelled. But he doesn't mind. He says, you know what? To be honest, I didn't really want to do that anyway. Gets disarmed again. Gets the sand thrown in his face, and he's down to 900 health. He's going to do his best to try and stay alive here, but unfortunately, he does go down. He's not quite a raid boss yet, but perhaps it's on the horizon. Let's go on to his next life and see what happens. We're going to watch it directly from his Twitch in real time, just to be able to really appreciate the power of this raid boss 7 that Michael S manages to find. Spots out the Infernus. We're not going to worry too much about casting it or analyzing it. We're just going to try and enjoy it as much as we can and witness the true power of Raid Boss 7 in all of its form. He's got a huge lead at this point of the game, and despite getting telekinesis and cursed by the enemy Wraith and dropping down to 1300 HP, he does not care. He manages to escape away out the back and continues that DPS, just popping balls non-stop and just constantly healing. At this point, he's got so many healing items that help him keep afloat. The leech, the spiritual overflow together, just allowing him to just constantly heal up. And we can see how much healing he's able to do. Just even ulting a single person, takes out the Moe and Krill as well. And raid boss mode is completely, well and truly online at this stage of the game, but we're not done yet. He's going to have a little bit of trouble around this corner as Mirage has decided to ulti in on top of the Infernus. Infernus, of course, quite good at healing up as well himself. Typically, we see a big leech build coming out from him, but Colossus out from Mirage. That's a lot of health that he's got to deal with. Tries for the melee, gets parried immediately. And 7 loses a lot of health. He's going to have to fall back, but the raid boss status is online. He's able to keep his head above water and able to clear out Mirage. And now that the stun is locked in on the enemy Infernus, it's only a couple of melee hits, and he is well and truly done. And we dive in on the final push of the game to take a look at how crazy this raid boss build has become. More than 4,200 max health. He's got full armor, soul rebirth, leech, unstoppable. He just ignores the enemy heroes in the base. He doesn't care about Moe and Krill as he pops unstoppable and essentially one-shots him right there. He spots the Haze ulti just outside his peripheral vision, and slowly the Mirage dives in on top of him with this melee build, but it's not going to matter. He takes him out, takes out the Wraith. Gets an assist on the Haze as well, and now the last lonesome hero on the enemy team. It's going to be, of course, the enemy Shiv. He helps to focus down outside the base, and that is going to be it. The final stats for him, more than 2.1k souls per minute. And just keep in mind, this is only one of his early 7 games. This is only going to get worse from here. You think 2.1k souls a minute is good. Well, I'm confident we're going to see even bigger numbers out from him, because one of the best in the business when it comes to Deadlock skill, and farming is no exception for that. So hopefully you've enjoyed this look at one of the world's best 7 players and undoubtedly the world's best Deadlock player. I've been Drongo. This has been your Deadlock. Thank you for watching.